Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo orders overhaul of Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police Force, and Police Chief Ibrahim Idris promptly complies, banning SARS operations in states. Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki and Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara says no date has been fixed for reconvening of the National Assembly to consider President Buhari's supplementary budget. Independent National Electoral Commission registers 23 new political parties just as it extends the deadline for continuous voter registration by 2 weeks. And at least 35 persons are killed after a giant motorway bridge collapses in Italy.
On Business News tonight, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board says it is considering plans to rally indigenous oil and gas companies for listing on the local stock exchange.
And on sports news tonight, FIFA gives Nigeria August the 20th deadline to resolve the internal Nigeria Football Federation crisis or face international ban.
Electricity workers picket Ministry of Power in Abuja over issues of welfare and alleged non-implementation of agreements reached with the unions.
We begin tonight from the nation's capital, Abuja, where the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, ordered the immediate overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police Force, SARS. Professor Osinbajo has also asked the Inspector General of Police to stop the activities of the police unit with immediate effect and ensure that any unit that will emerge from the process will be intelligence-driven and restricted to prevention and detection of armed robbery and kidnapping. The new unit is also expected to focus mainly on the two areas, that's armed robbery and kidnapping, and nothing more. A statement from the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Laulu Akonde, says the new unit is also expected to bear proper identification anytime they're on duty. The action of the acting president is coming in the wake of a series of complaints by Nigerians on the brutality carried out by SARS operatives and allegations of abuse of rights. The hashtag #EndSARS movement on social media is one of the platforms where Nigerians commented on the abuse of power and other illegal actions of SARS operatives across the country. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Ibrahim Idris, has ordered the dissolution of all SARS operations across the country as he announces that all SARS operations will now be under the control of the Federal SARS. The Federal Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which was previously under the Force Criminal Intelligence and Investigations Department, will now operate under the Department of Operations at the Force Headquarters, Abuja. A statement from the Inspector General of Police says the Commissioner of Police in charge of the new FSARS will report directly to the Inspector General of Police through the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Department of Operations. According to the statement, the Federal Anti-Robbery Squad will be intelligence-driven and will be restricted to the prevention and detection of armed robbery and kidnapping only in compliance with the Presidential Directive. The IGP has also instructed that a medical and psychological evaluation of all Federal SARS operatives be carried out, as well as the redesigning of their uniforms and identity name tags. They are also directed to stop performing stop-and-search duties except on distress calls. And in the meantime, human rights group Amnesty International believes the action of the acting president on the overhaul of SARS is a positive step, but the group is asking that the federal government ensure that the reforms are robust. A statement by the group says the restructuring of the police unit is long overdue following the growing outcry over brutality of Nigerians by SARS operatives. The statement adds, quote, "The reform ordered by the acting president must translate into ending the torture, unlawful detention, extortion, extrajudicial killings and other serious human rights violations that SARS officials have been committing for years across Nigeria. That includes bringing to justice SARS officers found to have committed atrocities," end of quote. Amnesty International is also asking the federal government to make the special panel convened to investigate SARS independent and impartial. Now, after months of peaceful and social media protests by Nigerians for the scrapping of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS, it appears their demands may have been met. But there are some questions that need answers following the action of the acting president. One of the questions is, are all these officers guilty of the allegations leveled against SARS? Well, in this report, our correspondent Oroluwa Shonibare examines the issue that led to today's order.
The tweet that gladdened the hearts of many Nigerians. The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo's call for the overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, popularly known as SARS. The Inspector General of Police promptly responded with a pledge to immediately begin the process. This action comes after months of protests across the country by citizens who felt a number of the security personnel in the unit had lost the plot of why they were set up and acting out of jurisdiction. The airwave was laden with stories and videos of SARS brutality.
Shoot me. Shoot me. You can see my eyes because putting a word into my mouth to talk. Due to that, be beating me, different beating with different type of people, intimidating me, using knocking me all over my body, slapping me to my face. Different beating from different angle.
But how much blame can be placed on the laps of these officials who are part of the 372,000 police officers expected to adequately protect about 180 million Nigerians? Truth be told, though, there are those out of the overstretched agents who diligently conduct covert operations and every now and then come out with successful stories of arrests. But this can have side effects, as there are those who become bad eggs as a result of over-interaction with the crime world. This, the public relations officer of the Nigerian police says will be looked into as the reform takes effect.
People will start seeing the result very, very soon. So it's going to be known as FSARS.
One of the strong advocates for the overhaul of SARS, human rights activist Femi Falana, had always made it clear how we think the reform can best be achieved.
Instead of promising a reform, all I'm asking for is full and religious compliance with the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act.
So, with the call for refinement made, expectations are high that there will be an improvement in cordial relations with the public, increased workforce to effectively combat crime, and the needed technological support for the agents to carry out their duties. Then, perhaps the saying, "the police is a friend," will begin to have a nice ring to it. Oroluwa Shonibare, Channels Television News.
Now, let's put all this into perspective. And joining me is a security consultant, Dr. Ona Ekomo. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you, Mrs. Joma.
Now, some are calling this move long overdue. Is this something you've been waiting to see as well?
Well, anytime you have a situation where there is a widespread abuse of rights, torture, getting called out by the international community on police brutality, police excesses, you're going to need to have some of reforms of this nature, because reforms are an organization's way of improving itself, improving its process activities, improving its service delivery to members of the public. So this is really a very welcome development by the presidency, by Mr. Acting President in this instance, and trying to stop something that has given Nigeria a very bad name throughout the international community, and also at home here, because people are really not happy that members of SARS are behaving as if they are above the law.
But there's a new command line now under the new order, and then all SARS operations in the states will now be under the control of federal SARS. We've got 36 states. Are we saying that there was nothing good any of the, the operations in the states were doing? Is it a case of throwing away the baby with the bathwater?
Very close to that. I think what happened in the old order, we had the federal SARS and we had the state SARS. Now, the overhaul, which the IGP has carried out within 24 hours, and I think that is too quick. That's more like a knee-jerk reaction. The overhaul he has carried out is that he has scrapped the state SARS and he has now emplaced federal SARS in states. Now, what that means is that SARS will now be a unitary organization reporting all the way into Abuja. That's to an already overburdened office of the IG, if you may ask me.
Yes, I was going to about to say that. Yeah, what sort of logistics?
I think it should have been the other way. There should be even more decentralization, more devolution than, going in the direction of centralization. So I think there's a mistake in the reform in that respect. But now, in terms of the goals of the reform, because they're going to carry ID cards, they're going to be more identifiable as police officer, police personnel, they're going to respect human rights. I think those are all very welcome. But I think the way we are going about the reform is going to be problematic in terms of implementation. Now, one last thing is that moving it from FCID, that's the investigations unit, to operations, in fact, is, I believe, probably a mistake also, because FCID, you have investigative access, investigative capabilities. Now, in fact, the mandate that was given by the presidency is that SARS should be intelligence leading. Intelligence does not run in ops. Intelligence runs as a corollary of investigations. So one thing they need to do quickly is reopen the Federal Intelligence School in Enugu so that we can now turn out more intelligence assets from the police agency.
Okay, let me just ask you this quickly. Can I draw your attention to the statement by the Inspector General of Police talking about medical evaluation of all federal SARS operatives to be carried out? Is that standard procedure, or is this an extra measure given all the reports of the abuse that have been coming in? Just to clarify that, the psychological evaluation that they're supposed to carry out.
Well, I think it was President Obasanjo who said while he was president that all police personnel really need to be examined medically, psychologically also, to determine their mental health. Now, policing is a very stressful job. It's not normal to go out there every day and you are dealing with the worst part of humanity. People being killed, people being raped, people being dismembered. The other day in Ibadan here, they discovered a shrine where herbalists were cutting off people's heads. That is the lowest form of humanity. So police personnel, they take all of this home with them. So in fact, they are really under a lot of stress. At times, life mimics art. They now become the monsters they are chasing after. Now, let's put that aside. This should be standard procedure for all policing personnel. Before you enter the agency, you must be examined medically and psychologically, whether you are a cuckoo or not. Because imagine giving a guy a gun who is not sound. He'll go out there and commit mayhem. So I think this is good, at least at this level. We take whatever good we get. We appreciate the IG for introducing a medical examination for SARS personnel. But I think it should go throughout the police agency because they all need it.
All right, so quickly now, Amnesty International have reacted already, saying that these reforms should extend to bringing to justice officers that are found guilty of committing atrocities. Do you agree with that? And can this not be handled by the disciplinary processes that the forces have in place already?
Yes, and I think, well, first of all, AI has a thing in for Nigeria. AI is always bashing Nigeria and Nigerians, Nigerian police, Nigerian military. So I have a problem with AI and their judgment. It's boundist. That's my problem with them. But having said that, we also agree as a Nigerian and as a user of police services, I agree that the police, particularly the police agency as an organization, and particularly SARS, tends to be high-handed and perhaps even brutal and brutish in its activities, in its operations. Now, maybe it's responding to kind of criminals we have in Nigeria who tend to be quite hardened and quite bloodthirsty also, as it were. So, sometimes it takes a thief to catch one. Now, having said that, Eugene Vidocq, somewhere in France, the guy who started Sûreté in Paris, but having said that, the point here is we need to set up institutional framework for examining police activities. It must be institutionalized. So what do I mean by that? You can put up an internal affairs department, AID, that will look at every projectile encounter, any shooting encounter, any encounter that involves the discharge of firearms by a police personnel. It's a projectile encounter. And that should come under review every time so that you can stop this needless life of human lives and perhaps excessive torture that is giving Nigeria police and particularly SARS in this case a bad name. So I think the two things I want to give as a takeaway, we need to look again at that centralization. It's a problem.
All right. Thank you so much, security consultant Dr. Ona Ekomu. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10 tonight with your views. Thank you. And in part 2, after the break, National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Adams Oshomole, insists on the resignation of the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.